Okay, going back. All right, everyone see? We looking good? I did press recording.
Yep, that
So
looks
we're
good.
live. All right, perfect.
All right, thanks, Terry. All right, good evening, everyone. This is the public meeting for the water main replacement project in the area of North Oak Traffic Way to Brooklyn Avenue, Northeast Russell Road to Inglewood Road. Thank you all for joining us tonight as we do these virtually during the pandemic. We appreciate everybody's ability to meet virtually instead of in person. A couple of housekeeping items we'd like to go over at the beginning. So next slide, please, Terry. We are recording this meeting, so just to let everybody know the meeting is being recorded, and we will post the recording on our KC Water website at the conclusion of this meeting. So those will probably take about a day or two, and those get uploaded onto the website. Additionally, at any time during this presentation, please feel free to ask questions. There is a raise your hand feature in the chat tools within Teams. Please feel free to use that. Feel free to unmute yourself and just interrupt us and ask us questions at any time. Or at the end of the presentation, we'll also ask specifically for questions if there are any additional questions. If you're on a phone, if you logged in via phone and not through Teams, I think if you press *6, that will unmute you, or just like I said at the very end, we'll have an opportunity for questions if you want to ask questions at the end. Terry Thomas will be manning kind of the presentation, so if you need us to go back on anything, just let us know at any time. Okay, next slide. So I just wanted to introduce our project team for tonight. Matt Bond actually texted me a couple minutes ago and he's not able to join us, but typically Matt Bond, our Deputy Director for KC Water, he joins us, or Jeff Martin, our Chief Engineering Officer, but Jeff is sick tonight as well. So you get myself, I'm the Water Distribution Division Head, I'm Melanie, and you get Terry Thomas, he is our Project Manager for KC Water. Additionally, we have Emin Rader on the phone or on the call, and he's going to be our resident inspector for the project here for KC Water. And then we also have Fatima Parrish and Dwight Butler. They're both with Parrish and Sons, who are our contractor for this project. So Parrish is the president, and I'm sorry, Fatima is the president and owner, and Dwight will be the project manager for this project as well. Next slide. So we like to give a quick little background on KC Water as a utility. For those of you who don't know, we are a 3-utility service provider. So we do provide drinking water, we collect and treat wastewater, and then we also have stormwater as part of our utility that we serve or that we provide. Next slide. So really, to do these 3 utilities, we have a lot of assets that we have to manage and operate and maintain. On the water side, we have 1 treatment plant, we have 18 pump stations, we have 2,800 miles of water main, which we're going to talk about more as part of this project. We have 35,000 valves and 23,000 fire hydrants. And this infrastructure is what's needed to take clean water from the treatment plant and distribute it to the taps throughout the city. Additionally, we have 6 wastewater treatment plants, 39 pump stations, 28 miles of sewer main, and 67,000 manholes on our wastewater collection system. And basically, this is what's needed for our collection system to collect wastewater from our customers and to treat the water safely so that then it can be discharged back into the river. We also have 630 miles of storm sewer as part of our utility, and which includes 53,000 storm inlets, 15 stormwater pump stations, and 13.5 miles of levee. And this kind of helps protect the city from flooding during those heavy storm events that we see sometimes. Next slide, Terry. And all of this really is to protect our water source, which is the Missouri River. So the Missouri River is where we pull the majority of our drinking water from that we treat and distribute as drinking water, and then also where we treat our wastewater to clean enough levels and discharge back into the Missouri River so downstream users can use it as well. Next slide, Terry. All right. So really, I want to give you a little bit of background on the water main replacement program, since this is why we're here tonight, is for a project within this program. So as I mentioned, our distribution system includes 2,800 miles of distribution main. Some of these mains date back to the 1800s, so we do have some old infrastructure within our system. Aging infrastructure is a nationwide challenge. It's not something unique to Kansas City, but what is unique to Kansas City is about 8 years ago, we developed a water main replacement program. And this is really to address a lot of the mains and disruptions in services that we're seeing when we have main breaks. And the goal of this program is to replace 1% of our distribution infrastructure a year, or 28 miles every year. As I mentioned, we're in our 8th year, and we've replaced more than 200 miles to date. So we're seeing a lot of really good progress within the program. Next slide. So how do we really pick or determine which mains to replace and when to replace them? We do this through data-driven priorities. And so we have a pretty robust asset management group, and we keep an asset database of all of our facilities and all of our infrastructure. And so what we're able to do is we're able to look at our distribution system assets, and we're able to look and to develop and identify likelihood and consequence of failure of each main within our system. And we do that based on the age of the pipe. We do it based on the number of breaks that historically that pipe has seen, looking at the customers the demand that pipe serves, and a variety of other criteria. And so looking at the likelihood and consequence of failure, we're able to establish a risk of main. And so every year, this is done every year, and new pipes that have been replaced are kind of taken out of the data set. And so we're able to identify the top 28 miles of the highest risk main and develop projects with those pipes. And so basically we start by creating design projects. We take everything from design through bidding and then through construction. And so all of the new projects are designed to have new zinc coated ductile iron pipes. These pipes are also wrapped in a polyethylene sleeve. And basically this gives the new infrastructure about a 100-year design life. And so we should not see breaks on these new pipes that we're putting in the ground. This long-term infrastructure plan really does reduce service interruptions due to breaks. It reduces our operation and maintenance costs, and we're also able to increase capacity and fire protection to our customers. What happens is when we take some of this old cast iron pipe out of the system, or old ductile iron pipe, that we do see some tuberculation, which means it's basically buildup on the inside of the pipe. And so that reduces the inside diameter of the pipe, which reduces capacity and available fire flow. So when we put in these new pipes, we're getting larger diameters, larger available diameter, and that increases the capacity and fire protection to our customers. Next slide, Terry. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Terry, and he's going to go into the specifics of this project tonight. Terry, you're muted. There you go. I'm still muted.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay. I'm like, wait a minute. Am I new to this or what? Okay. So we're back. Okay, what happened? This is bad. All right, we're back. All right, this particular project, forgive me, guys. So we're going to be replacing a little under a mile on this project, specifically 0.85 miles of water main. As you can see, we've taken kind of a bits and pieces approach here. You see some things up on North Euclid Avenue, all the way down to North Home Street. But like Melanie mentioned, we have to identify those mains that are going to truly affect the system if they're to break. And that's kind of the approach we take with these. You'll notice that the longest stretch being done is on Northeast Davidson Road. But overall, this is a much smaller water main replacement than sometimes we get in our program. So the real question, what happens on your block? Now that we're here, we decided that your main needs to be replaced in your neighborhood. Well, what happens when we get there? First thing we do is that the contractor will come out, they'll mark the utilities. It's the first sign that they're on the way. So if you see little flags sticking out, some fresh paint on the pavement or in your grass, sometimes on the sidewalk, depends on where everything is. They're just trying to make sure that each utility, whether it's gas, whether it's sewer, a AT&T line, that we can properly identify those and make sure that they match what we went out and surveyed when this project was in design. That way we know where to put the water main properly. Then they bring out their traffic control, whether it's cones, things like that, to make sure that you guys can navigate the construction area properly. And then start getting into the action. They start saw cutting the pavement because they're getting ready to lay the new water main in its new location. We do not take out the old water main when we do this. So we always, well, not always, but 9 times out of 10, we are installing the new water main in a completely different trench than the old water main. And of course, there's a point that comes once they've done all this, the new water main is in the ground, but it's not active yet. There's no water flowing through it. And until it's tested and disinfected, we cannot put it into service. So there's always a delay. You'll see them laying on your street, and then you'll see no activity for a week, maybe up to 2 weeks, depending on how long it takes to pass the test. And that doesn't mean that we left and we're going to leave your streets and yards all torn to pieces. We're definitely coming back, but we have to make sure that it's safe, that the pipes are going to safely transport the drinking water to your home. So the old main will stay in service during this entire process, but once it passes the bacteria test, then we'll begin the process of putting the new main in service. And that includes tying on both ends and giving you a new service line and a brand new curb stop. I'll circle back to this, but during the process of transferring your service, if your meter is inside the home, this will be the moment that we'll bring it outside and into a fresh meter pit in the yard. But we'll go into more details on that later. And then we go through the connections and we abandon the old water main, stays in the ground. And then as far as restoration is concerned, for this particular project, we are following the old standard. There has been a new pavement restoration standard set forth this month, but this project's a little older, so we'll follow the old standard, which means we'll asphalt where the street cuts are and not full lane. If you do have interest in seeing your neighborhood repave, you can always check the Public Works schedule. They keep an updated schedule on where they'll be repaving online. Curbs, sidewalks, and driveways will all be restored to standard or better. So we'll make sure that it looks exactly like it was, or something, and oftentimes even better than it was before. And then, of course, for lawns, we seed inside in season. So during the winter months, you may not see any sod laid down, but soon as spring comes right back around, then we'll come back and get your yard sodded for you, looking nice and green. So of course, the large backhoes and track hoes and all the large equipment will be in use and on your blocks. Overnight, they're usually blocked, coned off, and parked on the end of the street so as to avoid anyone, getting in the way or parking in front of your home. I know a lot of times residents don't like that, so we try to make sure that we keep everybody happy. But then you say, what about the people on the end of the block? Well, it's going to be parked in front of someone's home at some point, but we usually try to keep it out of the middle of the street. It will be noisy, dusty conditions. They do start early in the morning, 7 a.m. So if your commute is not till after that, you will hear them outside. Your services will be disrupted during this. At least, we like to say a minimum of 3 times. And for these 3 times, it's when we connect the new water main to the old water main on each end. So that's 2 times. And then when we're transferring your service to the new water main, will be the 3rd time that your water is off. Usually these shuts last for about 4 hours. We try to get in as soon as possible, get out as soon as possible to limit the disruption to your service. And then you will always be notified beforehand for these 3. Now there is what we like to call a 4th, and as old as these water mains are, it may be 5th unplanned disruption. And in those cases, of course, we can't notify beforehand because it's likely because of a water main break, in which they will work diligently and quickly to get it back into service. But sometimes these things do happen in construction, and the old water mains break while we're out there. Of course, like I mentioned before, lawns will be restored, most likely seeded and sodded in the spring, since this project is starting a little later in the year. So, kind of bear with us on that. Your travel routes may be affected by where we are. Try to plan ahead. If you know it takes a 30-minute commute, maybe it'll take 35 now, So those things can be worked out. Ingress and egress into your homes. When we're on your block, if we're coming past your driveway and if you need to leave, just let one of the fine gentlemen or ladies out there know that you need to get out of there, and they'll make sure you can get out as soon as possible. You got appointments made and things of that nature. We will not disrupt those. They will make sure that they can get out of your way as quickly as possible. Same when you're coming to your home. If you're coming during working hours, they will do the same thing as well. Next slide. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that if you have an inside meter set, that during this project, we will be bringing them outside. So you will get notified during the service transfer process. Hey, we need to come inside, remove the meter. They'll put a jumper inside where the meter used to be so that you can have your water. It'll be fresh copper pipe inside your home. And then we'll be placing the meters outside. This nice little graphic here kind of shows how that is. So if you have your meter in your basement, there's going to be a fresh meter pit outside in the yard, where we place that meter inside and then put that back into service. As far as responsibilities go, once that meter is in and we're all hooked up, everything from the first valve, which we call it a curb stop, as you can see here, that is what we call KC Water's responsibility. Anything happens to that curb stop or happens to the service on that side, it is our responsibility to make sure that that gets fixed. Now, for the curb stop into the home, that is all customer responsibility. You may have seen in the mail over the past couple of years that we send out a third-party service to get your service line insured. That's because, and that is for that reason, because KC Water isn't responsible for the service line on the homeowner side of the curb stop. But if your meter's already outside, you have no fear. There are a few streets that do, I know, that do have their meters already outside. I know North Euclid shouldn't have to worry about it at all, but there are other streets that do. And we'll be working with all the customers to make sure that we can safely, I know it's COVID, that we do safe work practices to go inside and get the meters and bring them out. And it's the same thing, in case anyone was wondering, for your sewer as well, is that, there's a KC Water responsibility out to the main. And then from there, your sewer lateral is customer responsibility. So same kind of deal, just kind of giving that information out, because sometimes that question gets asked and we want to make sure that everyone knows kind of what's going on there.
And Terry, really quickly before you switch slides, Mr. Plouts did ask the question. Davidson's curb stop valves are in the center of the yards due to the right of way being 100 feet wide. Will the yards be torn up to the existing valve?
He said their curb stops are where?
The center of the yards.
Uh-huh.
And so will the yards be torn up all the way to the valve? Or it's just basically at the
So that's odd that you have a curb stop in the yard. Usually it's the meter. So what is likely going to be done is that curb stop is going to be moved closer to the road. But we would have to remove the old one, or at least fill it. So that way, I'm sure the resident wouldn't want it in their yard anymore. So it'd likely be filled and then, covered, and grass will end up growing on it. But we'll definitely put the new curb stop way further out. But the only thing is the meters will definitely be in the yards though.
And I think I'll just add to this, we do restoration. And so the contractors go out and they take pre-construction photos. And so they have to restore existing property to conditions equal to or better than pre-construction photos. So if the yard is destroyed, however much is dug up will be restored at the end of the project.
Yeah. All right. I'll kind of touch on this here, and then I'll allow either Dwight or Fatima to kind of let you guys know about how they plan on sequencing. But we're on schedule to start in October. If all goes well, it'll be within the next 2 weeks. And then project is scheduled to last until June of 2022. Now, that does not mean that we'll be on your particular block the entire time. We kind of sequence our way through line by line on that photo that I showed earlier on all the areas being affected. They'll go one by one, lay the pipe, get it in service, restore it to what we can at the time. If we can't do side, we'll always come back with at least the road restored, move on to the next line, and so on and so forth. Parrish and Sons has indicated that they will be beginning on North Euclid Avenue and then working their way around the project lines from there. So all the other locations will get scheduled after that. And again, you will be notified prior to the start of work on your block when they'll be on the way. So it will not be a surprise. You don't wake up one morning and you hear, the large equipment outside bothering your morning. Now you got to get a double shot of espresso in your coffee. All right, Dwight, if you want to step in, or Fatima, it's up to you if you wanted to speak more on the schedule.
Well, Terry, I just wanted to say that first off, it's a pleasure doing work for the city again. We'll be as courteous as we possibly can. We'll make sure that the customer, meaning the homeowners, will be notified in a timely manner. We'll be as quiet as we possibly can, and we'll get done as fast as we possibly can to ensure a successful project. And like you stated earlier, we are going to start on North Euclid as soon as we get the notice to proceed.
Thank you, sir. So again, you can find the postcard that you received via mail online. I have the link here. It is kcwater.us/project/current projects. It has not only this project, but of course a host of our other water main replacements as well. So if you happen to think you're going to be visiting a part of the city and say, hey, I wonder if something's going on here that's going to mess up my fun, a la the plaza, you can get all that information right here in one place. We also have our contact information. We usually list this in order of ease, so that, line of defense, I should say. With Dwight being the construction project manager, he's usually around the job site much more often than I am. Same with Emin. So we list their name and number first. So if you have an issue, it's always easier to get a hold of one of them because they're likely already out there or going to be out there, as opposed to submitting the 311, which doesn't get solved quite as quickly as any of us would like to. So that's kind of the best way to do things. And then if you can't get it solved with either one of them, then of course my contact information is listed here as well. Just give me a shout and we'll try to make sure that we can get things solved if there's an issue as quickly as possible. And with that, are there any questions? I was about to say, I don't have the chat up. Wait a second.
I'm looking at the chat,
Okay.
Terry, and we've answered the only questions that have been posted in the chat. So I'm not sure if anybody has any additional questions that they want to ask. Give it a second.
Yeah, I think
I'm not seeing any come through. So I think we're probably good. Thank you, everyone.
One question Ken just asked, will the drawings be available for review? Now that is something we actually on the in-person meetings, we would have the drawings available for customers to review. Are you on Davidson? If you're on Davidson, drop your email in the chat and I can show you Davidson Road. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and drop your email and I can let you see your street. It's public record, so if that's what you
I
like.
also don't mind going by Davidson Road and showing them my set of drawings.
Yep. So we can definitely do that. Yep, I got your email right here. Okay, perfect.
So why don't we do that, Terry? If Ken wants to review the email those to him. And then Ken, if you have any additional questions, please reach out to Emin and he can meet you, like he said, at your on site, and he can go over any questions that you have after you've reviewed the drawings.
Absolutely.
Well, any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Are you seeing any, Terry?
No, I do not.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Again, please reach out to Emin, to Dwight, or to Terry if you have any additional questions. And we thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank
Have
you.
a good evening.
All right.
Good
Thank you
evening.
all.